On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, scaling the industry-government connection at the Naval Research Lab, and Congress's problem with protests gets a closer look. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. The Naval Research Laboratory is prototyping a hydrogen small unit power system in a collaboration with the Marine Corps' Expeditionary Energy Office and industry partners. It's the latest example of NRL's work to scale innovation for the sea services. Captain Randy Cruz, U.S. Navy, is the commander of NRL. Captain Cruz, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. What's the mission of the Naval Research Laboratory?
Well, first of all, Francis, thanks for having me. The mission of the Naval Research Laboratory is to conduct a broadly based multidisciplinary program of scientific research and advanced technology development directed towards maritime applications of new and improved technology, equipment, materials, of systems, ocean and atmospheric and science and space-related technologies. We're looking for that game-changing technology that the rest of the government will want to take and put out into the fleet.
Not just the sea services, the rest of the government.
Mostly the sea services.
Yes.
We're focusing on that maritime application, both Navy and Marine Corps.
Fair enough.
Those are our primary customers.
How do you assess what's innovative and sufficient to pass along to the rest of this, what that might be interesting to the sea services and the rest of the government?
Well, so what's fantastic about the laboratory, if you allow me a couple seconds here.
Yes.
So the laboratory is about 4,000 people, about 1,300 contractors, 2,700 government civilian employees. Of that 2,700, about 1,800 of them are science and engineering professionals. Of that 1,800, 900 of them have PhDs. More than half of the Navy's PhDs are at the laboratory. And it's those folks, not just the PhDs, our masters, our undergrads, it's how they attack the problems. We like this bottoms-up approach. We often reference this quote from Henry Ford, who in his day would have asked, hey, what do you need? And he probably would have said, a faster horse. Mm-hmm. Well, we like to look at the problem. Don't tell me the solution. Give me the problem, give me the parameters, and we'll see what we can come up with. Maybe we'll come up with this container with wheels and propulsion. Maybe not a faster horse, more horses, perhaps an automobile. Give us the problem, and we'll come up with the solutions. And so it is a world of trial and error. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the things they come up with may not hit the mark, but a lot of them do. And over the course of the 100 years that the lab has been in existence, we've got countless examples, everything from seabed to space. You
were talking in the green room that NRL got in on the remote control autonomous game in the 1920s. So I imagine a lot of the technologies that you look at, you see some root in some work that's happened at the lab.
That's correct. We've got quite a few things that are on the shelf. And I have to tell you, the researchers at the laboratory are some of the most humble, professional, patriotic scientists you'll ever find. They're not real good at marketing the stuff they're working on. And so it wasn't until I came to the laboratory and I was doing some research and I realized that the first remotely piloted controlled aircraft was in the late 20s at the Naval Research Laboratory. So here we are 100 years later talking about the impact of UASs and uncrewed vessels. Well, we've been doing that for quite some time. And it's our challenge. That's one of the things I've learned over the last couple of years at being at the lab. Having taken over the lab a few months ago, one of the biggest challenges we have is letting people realize what the laboratory offers, what's on our shelves, and in fact, a lot of things that are in existence today probably should have an NRL inside sticker on that thing.
I mentioned scaling innovation at the beginning of our conversation, Captain. How do you do that, especially in collaboration with industry?
So we host what we call innovation days, different than industry days. Typical industry days, you'll open up the doors and you'll have folks come and see what's going on. Our portfolio is so vast that we are picking particular topics. We'll post it on the SAMS.gov site to announce it. And I'll take you to a link so you can register. We've got one coming this fall. We're still trying to figure out what the topics will be. This last one we held in May was about battery power, storage, and tropical cyclone prediction software and those kinds of things. So for all you out there, pay attention. Check SAMS.gov. There's an innovation day at the laboratory coming to you soon.
What do you hope to learn from innovation days that's different than an industry day? Is it just that the dialogue is industry to you rather than you to industry, or is there more to it than that?
It's more focused. It really takes a look at some of the patents and licenses that we have that are available and specifically showcasing them on a particular topic. If you look today at our website, we've got over 1,100 available licenses and patents industry partners can start using and scaling and taking for action. But they don't know they're out there. And just to say, take a look, might be kind of an overwhelming task. But if you take a particular topic, let's say it's like this in May, we're talking about battery storage. If you're in the business of battery storage and batteryization, this is for you. So the topics will come out, it'll be more focused to get businesses to want to enter business with the government and to scale. Take things that are from the lower TRL levels and move them across the spectrum there.
Is the relationship, is a good relationship, a good partnership with industry at NRL similar to what a good partnership is across the rest of the department, or is it different due to the nature of the research to industry relationship?
I think because it's early research, there are some nuances to that behavior, but in general I think it's the same. We are interested in having business partners move these things, especially if it's useful, right? Of course, a company is not going to want to invest in something if it's not going to go anywhere. They just need to know what it is and what's out there. And so that's our half of the bargain. Here's what's available. Over to you if this is something you want to take and move on. But I think it's a healthy relationship. Can it be better? Absolutely. The more the merrier. I mentioned a rising tide will lift all boats. That includes not just the services, but our business and our academic partners as well. And in fact, the laboratory does a lot of work with the other services as well. So we're all connected in this ecosystem. In fact, every 6 months, we have a laboratory commander sync. In fact, this coming end of this month, I'll be heading to Middle River up in Maryland, part of the Army Research Lab's Robotics Research Collaborative Center to talk about congested logistics. And you'll have the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and even the Coast Guard throwing in their science and technology proposals and see what we can move on, what we can collaborate on. We definitely don't want to duplicate each other's work.
You kind of anticipated where I wanted to go next, is what's the level of integration among the service research organizations to make sure that you're maybe looking at the same things but then collaborating if doing so rather than going off in different directions on the same thing?
Yeah, so if you look at both the people, the technology and the equipment, you'll see that across the DoD there are similar things, if you will. We do a lot of work with the Air Force Research Lab when it comes to hypersonics. They've got a wind tunnel, we've got a wind tunnel. Our wind tunnel is a little bit different in that we can run hypersonic speeds for up to a minute, so we can see some of the transition and the changes that are happening. And the other agencies, they don't have that. They've got a little more specific window of speed and time that they're looking at. So we bring different things to the game, but we're both very interested in hypersonics. So we'll take our teams and we'll collaborate using each other's equipment, using each other's expertise to move the hypersonics technology down the road.
We talked a little bit about UAS earlier in the program. What are some of the other technologies that are really a big priority for you and for your colleagues in the Sea Services now?
Oh boy. So the laboratory does everything from seabed to space. So I'll just start at the bottom and move my way up. The idea of looking for mines, embedded mines, underwater with uncrewed vessels. We've got some programs, Knifefish, Skyfish, looking at side synthetic aperture radars, looking for that those types of threats. And then the ability to work through the water, which is an entirely different medium. So we have a couple divisions looking at acoustics and how sound moves through the water. And then we've got another division looking at the bathymetry and the conditions of the water, which dictate that. So living underwater, and then operating underwater, looking for threats, hiding ourselves, and then operating. If you move above the water, then we're looking at our fleets. Fleet of ships that are often suffering from corrosion, which can be a debilitating challenge. We've got folks working on how to better use different layers of paint, better treatments to help make sure that the ships are able to deploy have more availability. Weapons, we quickly enter the classified world, so I won't touch that, but there's a lot of weaponry work there. But then as you go into aviation, into the air, longer enduring aircraft, smarter aircraft, and then even on the shore, you mentioned earlier about the hydrogen power supply, working with the Marine Corps, trying to bring long endurance power that is hard to detect. So it's both thermally and audibly hard to find, but brings lots of power. And then even into space. Before coming to the Naval Research Lab, I was the Assistant Chief of Naval Research at ONR, and before that, spent 3 years at NASA. As the Senior Advisor to the head of NASA, I had no idea that the Naval Research Laboratory existed. As a lifetime operator, using all this technology, not knowing where it came from, wasn't until my time at NASA and then to the Office of Naval Research where I figured out all the amazing things that comes from the lab. In fact, the laboratory has been steeped in space long before NASA even stood up. NASA stood up in 1958. The Naval Research Lab, in fact, gave the first 100 scientists at Goddard Space came from the lab. The longest in-orbit satellite, the Vanguard, is actually launched from the Naval Research Laboratory. A lot of space work. And then in the cyber world, and computers, we've got folks working on that as well. Huge portfolio. I kind of got lost in the question, but we're doing all kinds of stuff from the seabed to space.
We have about a minute left, Captain. How does your past experience inform the way that you want to lead the lab, and especially the fact that you didn't know that much about it as you became aware of it?
So the laboratory is already naturally broken into three segments that I like to focus on. One is our purpose, our mission, our service, if you will. We do things that will impact the fleet. This technology and the experiments to prove it out will eventually make it to the fleet, and they do that day in, day out. Number two is our strength, is our expertise. With all these PhDs and all these smart folks and their networks, they're good at what they do. Numerous Nobel Prize winners, IEEE fellows, AIAA. If they don't know, they will know who will. And then lastly, if you ever make it to the lab and you see how these folks work, this teamwork concept, and how if you're in business with one division, let's say you're working with the acoustics division, you're also working with the materials division. You're working with the entire lab. The way we work together and get along together is fantastic. Our service, our strength, and our teamwork makes the laboratory fantastic.
I'd love to come back and see the lab again sometime. Captain, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
Love to have you.